Hello and welcome to this episode of Decoded, where I take February's guidance and I speak to my own interpretation and pull out the top 5 themes that I think are important for us to cover. So I am going to break down the guidance that came from the Galactic Federation of Light, which are my guides, and really distill that down into the key topics for us to really understand what we might be expecting to see right now. I think it's a really interesting point to share or theme to share, because ultimately there's a lot of talk out there about the fact that as of February, we move into the year of the fire horse. There's a lot of discussion about the solstice period and how that's going to be significant. And I've definitely been channeling some information around that as well. My guides have pointed to that being very energetically significant collectively as a bit of a new beginning moment for all of us. But what I wanted to share with these themes is really giving their words. So I'll share and read their words, but also giving a flavour through my own interpretation, my own experiences of how I see this playing out, both for me and collectively. So let's kick off with the first theme. So the first theme is cosmic rearrangement is underway. I'm going to read their words because, I think it's really helpful to hear it exactly how they phrase it. So when I've channeled this, they've said, this is a rearranging, a cosmic rearrangement, a necessary unfolding for new to be born. So this is a beautiful theme. So my guides, if you don't already know them, they're galactic beings that I channel from the Galactic Federation of Light. So where I've been shown my connection is that I am channeling an aspect of myself as an Arcturian being that sits part of the Galactic Federation. So they tend to come in with a lot of this collective guidance for me, and and it comes through me when I record it. So I love what they're saying, because basically they're saying this is a cosmic reordering, and really thinking about the advice that they've been sharing with me, the wisdom of right now. I think we could all say, if we were to look at the world, it feels like it's falling apart in many ways. There is a lot of crumbling, falling down, things not really working, systems being exposed for failures that there are within them from, and I'm here in the UK, and I think many, many different countries can probably see this in their own experiences, is, healthcare systems not really working, serving us. There are governmental systems that are not really showing themselves to be particularly high vibration. There are individuals in those power structures who are showing or being exposed for, poor practice or behaviour that is not really shown itself to be for the greater good. And actually, what I consistently have been channeling, and this has been something that is not only prevalent right now, but something I've channeled actually for the last 2 years, is about this breakdown that we can all expect to see as we move through this year. So we can see that's pretty prevalent right now. And it doesn't feel like that's going to let up particularly anytime soon. But I love what they say about the cosmic rearrangement, because ultimately the point is for us to move to where we need to be, where we want to be as a society, and as we elevate ourselves to higher dimensional living, these structures and systems that are in place cannot come with us. Because if we are to become, and we are, they're very firmly clear with me about that. It's not if, it is now. It's happening now. It's not in the future, it's happening now. So on that basis then, how can we be operating at the level of the 5th dimension? So actually being totally heart-led and inspired by, creating a more positive world when we've got systems and structures that are not working, that are generally based on control and fear-based mechanisms. There's a lot of that, and it's being shown. And I think this is what the general population in each one of us are seeing. And maybe you are already, if you're watching this, most likely you're on an awakening journey and you already have awareness of this. But imagine if you are not, if you really trusted in those systems for most of your life. And now all of a sudden it's being exposed in a way that makes you feel really unsafe. Maybe before you thought the state had your back, and now it's showing itself as actually it's not really all it was cracked up to be, or it's, maybe not coming from the highest place that maybe you had given it credit for being before. Those cracks in the systems are really starting to show, and I think that's becoming prevalent to everyone. And the last sort of 12 months, most deeply in the last 6 months, I've been channeling that more awakenings will be prevalent, across the world. So from the back end of last year into this period of time throughout 2026 and beyond, we're going to start seeing more and more people awakening, questioning, asking the questions of this experience and saying, hold on a minute, I'm not actually here for this, or this doesn't feel like it works for me anymore, and starting to change that perspective. And so from there, this is the part of the awakening. This crumbling is in some ways activating that awakening across the board. And it's interesting for me personally, because I've been channeling about this collapse for a while now, and it felt kind of scary at the beginning when they used to say that to me, and I used to think, oh my God, how can that be happening? But now I'm sitting here from this standpoint, I can see it's happening, and I feel more comfortable with it because of what I've been channeling, because I know, and it consistently comes this way through my channel, that this is necessary. It is necessary because we can't take this stuff with us. If we're going to move into a new higher dimensional way of being, we need to call in the leaders of the future that help and lead from a collective standpoint, that are doing, taking actions from the right energy. At the moment, what we've got is a lot of system structures, individuals, businesses taking decisions from the wrong energy. That is not benefiting the greater good. That is not benefiting humanity or the earth necessarily, or the people that live on it, So whilst that might sometimes feel hard to take, that's the reality that we're in. But what I consistently channel is it's really important not to focus on that, not to focus on what's leaving, what's crumbling, what's falling away, and start to really put your energy and your focus into what's new. So this is the next point, really, or the next topic. They say, do not fear what is falling away. Do not fear what is rearranging. Allow it to take fold. So this is about anchoring your energy, anchoring your awareness, and focus on what is potential to be born, potential to be created, the potential for the new that we want to see. Focusing all the energy on calling that into our collective experiences versus clinging on to what is known. This is what feels sometimes a bit much. It can feel very destabilizing to witness this falling away without necessarily the solution visible. But they tell me quite clearly that the solutions are there. They're being born. What they say to me is, it's important not to look at the macro, to try to look at, for example, the news or the wider communication around that. A lot of that communication is going to be more focused on what's falling away. Of course, because that system's trying to basically, sustain itself, and it won't, and it will collapse. But the new is coming from the grassroots, and they show me that. They show me that the new comes from the communities. The new comes from the individual actions that we're taking that collectively make a difference. So it may not be this big governmental structure that's going to come top down. Actually, in fact, I know it's not going to be that. It's going to come from the ground upwards. And that's amazing, because that means that in order for you to find these pockets of new, just have a look in your local areas. Yesterday, I was having this beautiful conversation with someone who's a client, and she was speaking to a business that she had come across, and they were a business that promoted more community living, and they supported people with a system which was pay what you can. And it was allowing people to enjoy this going out and experiencing, social connection that maybe wouldn't always be able to do that. But there was a more shared approach to being on this collective table. And that was amazing, and there were, support around bringing your bike in and helping people with, I can't remember exactly what she was saying, but it was very community orientated. And so it was about sharing that collective wealth. It's about sharing the resources. It was about supporting people that need the support, and the ones that, maybe have slightly more in this moment, not holding on to that and clinging it, but actually sharing it, knowing that actually we're all completely abundant. We are all in this together. Humanity are, each one of us, connected. When we start to live from that place, the world is better. The resources are shared, and that collective way of being starts to become very, very powerful. And that's exciting. And that's the stuff that's not necessarily being reported on the news. And I'm sharing that as an example, just to show you, like, you might find that sort of thing going on in your local community. I've heard things about, food trucks doing similar things, where you pay what you can, and then that allows for that business to also give some free meals away to those that need it. Beautiful stuff like that. And that's just one example. I'm talking about food, but there's many, many examples of this. There's many examples of collective childcare solutions coming online. And actually, it's interesting because as more of this stuff starts to fall away and become, inadequate, it sort of forces and pushes the innovation to be born, because when everything is stable, there's less incentive to create. But actually, if we can all tune into what we're here to create, because actually how I see this is that we are all ultimately connected. My guides show it like this, like we are all like little lights. And when each one of us turns on and connects to the field and understands ourselves and what we're here and capable of, we start to operate from our path, like what we came for. And each person is like a web as we come together, because everybody's skills and interests and experiences start to knit together to create exactly what we need in society anyway. So actually, when we start to operate from that place, that feels like, this is new. And we can all relax and lean into the things that we're here to build, that we're here to support with. Maybe you're not here to build it. Maybe you're here to help with something else, or you're here to hold something. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what it is, but it will be coming more and more apparent to you as this experience unfolds. So making room for the new. And when I was channeling this, it was really clear that they always say to me as well, wherever your energy goes, energy is going to flow. So it's really, really important to understand that if you focus on what is falling away, if you focus on the fear and the concern around that, more than you're focusing on what's potentially possible, you're going to see more of that. So it's really, really important that as a collective, and you as an individual play a huge role in that. That's not always clear, but it is, because you are part of that collective experience. Each one of us that can hold that energy of the new, of welcoming that in, and the visions for a future that we want to see, the more likely we will create it in our reality. So focusing on, therefore, what we can do, what is possible. And I'm pretty sure this in the last channeling that I brought through, that if you have a vision that you have been holding in your body, in your mind, and it's alive within you somewhere, that maybe you've put on the shelf for a period of time, bring it back in, and start anchoring into that vision every day, because that is potential. There is potential for you to create that. Actually, this is a beautiful time, and I'll go on to that in a minute. Before I speak about that, I want to speak to the energetics of this time. They speak to me about the energetics, and they say that the energetics of this time are significant. And we can see that. So it's linked to what we've just said. They said, it is an essential time to hold your nervous system. This very month, and this very month we're talking is February, and I think February and March particularly very significant, have been and will continue to be energetically important and significant. So, this is because we are seeing this really ramping up in our experience, this change, this newness coming in, the old falling away. It feels destabilizing, particularly for those who are not aware of what's going on from a, cosmic level, if you like. For somebody who's not awakened to their self, their power, this whole experience and what's going on, this would feel really uncomfortable. And so if you are highly energetically sensitive, if you are sensitive to, emotion and the feelings of the collective, you may find that you tap into that sometimes. So that sort of fear that might be felt across the board, that uncertainty, that feeling of instability, you may start to feel that in your nervous system. I can definitely say there have been days where I felt very, very heavy or really quite anxious, and it's not been related to me. I've known that it's collective. So it's important to bring yourself back when you're feeling that. So coming back to the center, really tuning into yourself and bringing yourself and your nervous system back online. So, don't try and push through on those days. Actually come back and just recalibrate your own system to continue to move forwards. So that's really key. So this point about the nervous systems is important, and collectively we are seeing that, right? And what I keep being shown is that for many of us, the last year or so, maybe even a couple of years, and through into 2026, there is going to be a lot of falling away and crumbling, not only on a collective level, but also on a personal level, because we're evolving from where we were before. What your, evolved self, your life looks like might not be the life that you're sitting in right now. And that might mean some change comes through. It may not be for everyone, but there is going to be a significant amount of change for most of us. And this principle of, welcoming in the new and not trying to hold the old, whatever that might be, would be really relevant for you on a personal level too. I can definitely see it in my own experience. I have witnessed big things falling away in the last 12 months, and coming into this year, it feels a lot. It has felt a lot, but my soul is super clear on why. My soul knows that we're heading a totally different direction this year, and that feels amazing. And every time I'm anchoring into that feels great. If I focus on the things that are maybe not going so easily for me, and I'll vulnerably share that, that takes me into a space where I feel uncertain, and my human self starts to wobble. And I speak about it like my soul and my human, because I can definitely feel that tension between my soul saying, we're going here, and my human just trying to hold on for dear life saying, are you sure? My gosh. And I regularly have to sit my human down and say, it's all right. We're safe. It's okay. This is happening, but there's a reason for it. My soul knows it. This is about being led completely from the heart. And the more you do that, the more your head comes along. It's not that you don't want to use your mind anymore, but it's sort of bringing that mind into that connection to the heart. So the heart starts to be the leading, what you're led by. And that's usually not that logical. So that can be tough for the mind, because the mind wants to know the answers. We don't always need to know the answers. And that's a key part of this experience we're moving into. The past way of living was very linear, very structured, very systematic, perhaps. You do X, you get Y. It kind of looked like that. Now we're moving to a world where if you choose to elevate yourself and connect to it, this fifth dimensional energy is coming in and it's available to us, so we can anchor into that. We can anchor into the miraculous. We can anchor into the energies that allow for being fully heart-led and allowing your experience to completely mold into your to what your heart is calling you for, or what your heart is calling you to. So that leads me to number 4, the miracle field. So they say, welcome to the miracle field, because you have access to this. You always have, but the access is more open and prevalent than before. So how I understand this is discussing, like, when we think about third dimension and we got other dimensions as we go up through the dimensions, 4th, 5th, 6th, the density starts to be lower. So we're not as held, in our reality. The veil becomes thinner, our access to the field becomes a little bit easier, and we can find ourselves operating from that place of more flow in life. So, and maybe you've experienced this. I have days where I feel like I'm walking on water, and it's like, I am so high dimensional, it's like unreal. I feel like this is amazing, but it's not always consistent, because a small thing can, and this is something we're working on as a collective, is to come back, because something might wobble that from time to time. And of course, we're human. We're learning to evolve to that place. We're learning to be able to anchor into those frequencies regularly, all the time. But they exist and we have access. And again, it's a choice. It's a choice to connect to there. And the choice comes from where you're placing your energy. If you're placing your energy in worrying about what the government is up to, which is completely out of most of our control, obviously if you can do something about that, great. But the majority of us, that's not in our gift to do something about. But what is in our gift? Our own choices, our own actions, our own thought process, our own belief systems, our own ability to create our life how we want it. And this is how we get out of this context of, oh, look at the environment outside, it's all doom and gloom, and we've got no power to change it, to hold on. If I'm the creator of my own reality, which is truth, I understand that I'm not bound by that. When you elevate beyond the fifth dimension or beyond the third dimension, you're not bound by that stuff. You're actually not bound. You never have been. But the access, like they say, it's easier to access. So because the energies that are coming, and they share with me, coming out from the center of the earth, from the outside as well, are coming in, that starts to allow us to move up. So you might have these days where you feel like, oh my God, there's a load of emotion running through me and I feel like I'm shedding something big. Like, welcome those days, because the more you can release that density from your own system, the higher you can go. So that's how it works. That's what's available to us. So, the miraculous is more available than before. The manifestations are quicker, faster. I have also seen that in my own experience as well. But they don't come from, they come from believing it is the case, from understanding the power that you have to create. And when something's not going what seems in your mind, human mind, perfect. I've really had big lessons on this recently. When something is not going exactly to plan, what your human mind considers as the plan, it's important to let that go, because what if it's actually working out exactly perfectly? So I've been shown that in my own experiences, where I have had one set idea about how something's got to be, or I think it's going to look, I am then consistently surprised because it comes in different ways. And this is why, because the field is more open, it doesn't have to be so linear as it was. So this is a beautiful way of understanding that if you want to get to a certain point, say in a business or in your personal life, you want to move somewhere, you don't need to know the logical steps to get there. The important thing is to call it in. And then these random things will show up, showing up from a level of synchronicity. But for me lately, it's been like nothing I've ever experienced before. I mean, the synchronicity and the doors that randomly open are not in my human perception. I can't imagine that happening. It's just, I'm going day to day and I'm experiencing that. So it's coming back to the present moment, not trying to future it and not trying to create based on the past, being really present with a clear vision of what it is you're calling in, and openness to how that's received. So the miracle field is open. Guys, that's exciting. So anchoring into that energy over the fear and the distortion and the chaos that is going on out there. We don't need to be held by it. We're not held by it. We choose to be held by it. So that's key. And sometimes kind of triggering for people, but that's the truth. The final thing I want to say about this is the way through is through the self. So I'm going to read what they say. The only requirement is to know the steps on the path, the next steps towards the vision of the future you want for yourself and for this planet. Just take those steps one at a time. So this is about really letting go of needing to know the answers. This is a very human thing. And some of you might know that I mentor entrepreneurs in business. And this is one of the key things that I see when supporting someone to operate from a multidimensional place versus a very linear kind of third dimensional place is we are conditioned to need to know what's going to happen, because that's safety in our system. For so long, we've needed to feel that safety in our system. And that, as you elevate, is something you need to learn to let go of, and needing to know the 20-step plan to something. And like I was just saying, because of the miracle field they speak around, the access to this infinite potential, is so much open than before. If you come in with a 20-step plan and you're really rigid with that, you're going to miss some of the amazing opportunities that come up that may not seem entirely logical, that you might just feel in your body like, let's make that phone call. Or, you bump into someone and they offer you to come to some event and you're thinking, what's this got to do with anything? You'll feel whether that's in resonance with you or not. And then if it is, take those opportunities, do the things that are different and put yourself out in places that maybe you wouldn't normally before, and watch what happens. So it's not necessary to have a 20-step plan, whether that's in your life or in your business or as a collective. We don't need to know at this point in time what is replacing the systems that are falling down, but there is trust that if you are called to create those systems, you'll be called. And I know for sure that's the work I've been called to in my marketing business, which is in massive, massive transition right now, because it's moving to what is required for this collective, what we really need as we elevate into this new experience, not what was required before, and the time for that is now. So if you're seeing something falling away out of your experience, if you're seeing that, things feel uncertain, but that there's a calling in your heart, start to listen to that and tune out to all of the chaos, because that is going to be how you create a better experience for yourself, but you also contribute to that for the field, for the collective. Some people might see that as kind of a selfish way to look at it, but I'd really advise or invite you to look at it from the perspective of, when you are in your highest expression, you shine a light for somebody else. You could be that one person that inspires somebody else to take that decision for them. And that person could be the person that goes on to create the exciting new structure we need. So when we understand we're not bound by this 3D reality, that we are able to access higher dimensional experiences and that they're present now, my hope for you at this point in time is to feel excited about the future that is ahead. Tuning into that excitement, really living in that place, and just watch what comes and shows up for you. So thanks so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Bye for now.